Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining Shivaktam Sangha and Japa later on. Let's continue these amazing pastimes of Maharaj Citraketu and how he was aggrieved, and the whole family, all the citizens, everyone was aggrieved by the death of the child, of the son that he desperately wanted. And they are right in real emotional state. So Narad Muni and Aṅgirā are coming back to see them, try to support them, try to find a solution for their problems, and let's see what happens. Hare Krishna. So in this class today, the saints Nārada and Aṅgirā instruct King Citraketu. So Sri Shukadeva Goswami said, while King Citraketu, overcame by lamentation, lay like a dead body at the side of the dead body of his son. So it's like that the son was his pran, his soul. The two great sages, Nārada and Aṅgirā, instructed him about spiritual consciousness as follows. So when you are in a situation like that, material things cannot, nothing material, could give the best gifts, best clothes, best food, nothing can pacify you when you are in this kind of situation. Only spiritual knowledge can help you. So, and this is what Narad Muni and Aṅgirā, Sage Aṅgirā are going to do, help him. O king, what relationship does the dead body for which you lament have with you? And what relationship do you have with him? You may say that you are now related as father and son, but do you think this relationship existed before? Does it truly exist now? Will it continue in the future? So they're talking about temporariness of things. Everything's temporary. All relationships are temporary. We didn't know these people before, and you will never probably know them again in a future life. It's just one episode of our life. So why lament so much? Obviously, there's attraction, there's a bond, it's painful, but not to the extent that you just like lose all hope in life, because this is just one episode, one incidence in your life. The instructions given by Nārada and Aṅgirā Muni are the true spiritual instructions for the illusion conditioned soul. This world is temporary, but because of our previous karma, we came here and accept bodies, creating temporary relationships in terms of society, friendship, love, nationality, and community, which are all finished at death. So that's it. When you're born, you have a chapter, and when death, that chapter is finished, and you start a new chapter. So these temporary relationships did not exist in the past, nor will they exist in the future. Therefore, at the present moment, the so-called relationships are illusions or temporary. So they are temporary, but we call them illusions. Just pray Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Kroti Vachalam Pangum Lang Yate Girim Yat Kirpa Tamham Vandeshi Gurum Din Taranam Param Ananda Madhvam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hariyam Tassat Nārāyana Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamuduriyat Nashtapresha Vavadereshu Nityam Bhagavad Sevya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Neshtiki. O King, as small particles of sand sometimes come together and are sometimes separated due to the force of the waves, the living entities who have accepted material bodies sometimes come together and sometimes separated by the force of time. So in the past, we've heard examples of sticks on a lake with the waves that come together and then they go apart, together, apart like that. Different sticks will come together and fall apart. Here today, we give an example of sand maybe like on a beach, when the waves come, the sand pieces come together, the grains come together, and then they go apart like that. The misunderstanding of the conditioned soul is the bodily conception of life. The body is material, but within the body is the soul. This is spiritual understanding. Unfortunately, one who is in ignorance under the spell of material illusion accepts the body to be the self. He cannot understand that the body is matter, like small particles of sand. Bodies come together and are separated by the force of time. And people falsely lament for unification and separation. Unless one knows this, there is no question of happiness. Therefore, in Bhagavad-Gita, this is the first instruction given by the Lord. Dehinosmini yatha dehe kamaram yavanam jara tatha dehantra prapte dhiras tatra namohyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. So when we look different when we're a child, then youth and old age, we look indifferent. So it's like a different body altogether. Where is that person gone? Where is that child gone? Where is that teenage boy gone? Or girl. We were teenagers, we look different. Right? When somebody sees our pictures, oh, you look so nice. I'm sure they don't mean that you don't look nice anymore, but comparatively speaking, that person is gone. That child, that cute little child is gone. Teenagers come now. Youth is here, and the old man is here. Same look, same soul, different. Seems like they got different bodies. So similarly, when this body is completed its cycle, you just move on to a new body. Basically, the same process is taking place. Jump from child to youth to old, and then jump to a new body because that body just like run out. We run out of road. Now we've got to start on the new road. That's all it is. We are not the body. We are spiritual beings trapped into the body. Our real interest lies in understanding this simple fact. Then we can make further spiritual progress. Otherwise, if we remain in the bodily conception of life, our miserable material existence will continue forever. Political adjustments, social welfare work, medical assistance, and the other programs we have manufactured for peace and happiness will never endure. We shall have to undergo the sufferings of material life one after another. Therefore, material life is said to be dukkha alyam ashashvatam. It is a reservoir of miserable condition. When seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile and the sowing of seed is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is ultimately controlled by the Supreme Lord. Maharaj Citraketu was actually not destined to get a son, right? So we established that 10 million wives and no child, not son. So it's understandable that he's not meant to have a son, but he sort of, got Aṅgirā Muni to help him give a son temporarily. He's not meant to have a son. It's not good for him. Therefore, although he married hundreds and thousands of wives, all of them proved barren, and he could not beget even one child. So that's no coincidence. When Aṅgirā Rishi came to see the king requested the great sage to enable him to have at least one son. Because of the blessing of Aṅgirā Rishi, a child was sent by the grace of Maya, but the child was not to live for long. Therefore, in the beginning, Aṅgirā Rishi told the king that he would beget a child who would cause jubilation and lamentation. So King Citraketu was not destined to get a child by providence or the will of Supreme. So, he sort of took a diversion. He wasn't meant to have a child. Not, this is not Krishna wanted for him. He sort of took other methods to get the child. Just as a sterile grain cannot produce more grain, a sterile person, by the will of the Supreme Lord, cannot beget a child. Sometimes a child is born even to an impotent father and sterile mother. And sometimes a potent father and fertile mother are childless. Indeed, sometimes a child is born despite contraceptive methods. And therefore, the parents kill the child in the womb. In the present age, killing children in the womb has become a common practice. So this is the other way. They want a child they can't have, and then people don't want a child, they have a child, or at least pregnancy. Why, when contraceptive methods are taken, why don't they act? Why the child sometimes produced so that the father and mother have to kill it in the womb? We must conclude that our arrangement of so-called scientific knowledge cannot determine what will take place. What is enacted actually depends on the supreme will. So we don't really have control over anything. It is by the supreme will that we are situated in certain conditions in terms of family, community, and personality. These are all arrangements of the Supreme Lord to our desires under the spell of Maya illusion. In devotional life, therefore, one should not desire anything, since everything depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as stated in Bhakti Ras Amrita Sindhu, Anya Bilashita Shunyam Gyan Karmadi Anavratam Ankulayena Krishnanushilanam Bhakti Uttama. So one should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. This is called pure devotional service. One should act only to develop Krishna consciousness. For everything else, one should fully depend upon the Supreme Person. We should not create plans that will ultimately make us frustrated. O King, both you and we, your advisors, wives, and ministers, as well as everything moving and not moving throughout the entire cosmos, at this time are in a temporary situation. Before our birth, this situation did not exist, and after death, it will exist no longer. Therefore, our situation now is temporary, although it is not false. So, not everything is illusion, it's just temporary. The Mayavadi philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Brahman, the living being, Brahman, the living being is factual, but his present bodily situation is false. According to the Vaishnava philosophy, however, the present situation is not false. So it's not necessarily illusion, it's temporary. It is like a dream. A dream does not exist before one falls asleep, nor does it continue after one awakens. The period for dreaming exists only between these two. And therefore, it is false in the sense that it is impermanent. Similarly, the entire material creation, including our own creation and those of others, is impermanent. We do not lament for the situation in a dream before the dream takes place or after it is over. And so during the dream or during a dreamlike situation, one should not accept it as factual and lament about it. This is real knowledge. So basically everything that happened to us, we're like in a state of dream. We're in a different body before, and then we'll be in a different body after this. So this is like just in between the two. We are after a body and before a body. So it's just a temporary, it's like a dream state, just temporary. It's not that it didn't happen. Dream happened, but it was temporary. Now we moved on to another body. So this body or this situation happened, then we'll move on to something else, a different body, and these things won't matter anymore. The Supreme Personality Godhead, the master and the proprietor of everything, is certainly not interested in the temporary cosmic manifestation. Nonetheless, just as a boy at the beach creates something in which he is not interested, the Lord, keeping everything under his control, causes creation, maintenance, and annihilation. He creates by engaging a father to beget a son. He maintains by engaging a government or king to see to the public's welfare, and he annihilates through agents for killing, such as snakes. The agents for creation, maintenance, and annihilation have no independent potency, but because of the spell of the illusory energy, one thinks himself the creator, maintainer, and annihilator. So all these things are, we're not under this control. They are happening automatically by the will of God. So as from one seed, another seed is generated, okay? So from one body, the body of the father, through another body, the body of the mother, a third body generated, the body of a son. As the elements of the material body are eternal, the living entity who appears through these material elements is also eternal. So the soul is basically eternal. They just take a body of a father, of a mother, of a child. So from Bhagavad-Gita, we understand there are two energies, namely the superior energy and the inferior energy. Inferior energy consists of 5 gross and 3 subtle material elements we know about. The living entity who represents the superior energy appears in different types of bodies through these elements by the manipulation or supervision of the material energy. Actually, both the material and spiritual energy, matter and spirit, exist eternally as potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So whereas the spirit soul remains as it is, the material body keeps changing shapes, sizes, different bodies, but they're all part of Krishna. So he's got this inferior energy, he's got this superior energy. When the superior and inferior energies meet, a person is created that can be seen. The potent entity is the Supreme Person. So it's all coming from him. Since the spiritual energy, the living being, who is in part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, desires to enjoy this material world, the Lord gives him a chance to accept different types of material bodies and enjoy or suffer in different material conditions. Actually, the spiritual energy, the living entity who desires to enjoy material things, is manipulated by the Supreme Lord. The so-called father and mother have nothing to do with the living entity. They are just instruments, really. They're not our permanent mother and father. They're just instruments for that time period. Obviously, a child has to be born through a mother and father, and he's helpless, has to be maintained by the parents. That's why the parents are there. Just a temporary arrangement. As a result of his own choice and karma, the living being takes different bodies through the agency of so-called fathers and mothers. So they are just agencies, it's mentioned here. Divisions of generalization and specifications such as nationality and individuality are the imaginations of persons who are not advanced in knowledge. So all this segregation is just created by people. You are this, you are that, and you're big, you're small. We're all living entities in just different shapes of bodies. Actually, there are two energies, material and spiritual. Both of them are ever existing because they are emanations from the eternal truth, the Supreme Lord. Because the individual soul, the individual living entity, has desired to act in forgetfulness of his original identity since time immemorial. He's accepting different positions in material bodies and being designated according to many divisions of nationality, community, society, species, and so on. So, we are very similar in terms of soul, but because due to our desires and our karma, we take birth in a certain nationality, in a certain community, in a certain society, in certain species. But one thing we all have in common, we've forgotten God. We only recognize our bodies and ourselves. We don't recognize God. At least in the human body, we can learn to recognize God. In other species, we don't even have that opportunity. So Shri Shukadeva Goswami continued, thus enlightened by the instruction of Nārada and Aṅgirā, King Citraketu became hopeful with knowledge, wiping his shriveled face with his hand. The king began to speak. So he's realized that this was just a temporary moment. Why am I taken so seriously? Well, let's see what he says. King Citraketu said, you have both come here dressed like avadutas, liberated persons, just to cover your identities. But I see that of all men, you are the most elevated in awareness. You know everything as it is. Therefore, you are the greatest of all great personalities. Brahmanas who are exalted to the position of Vaishnavas, the most dear servants of Krishna, sometimes dress like madmen just to benefit materialists like us who are always attached to sense gratification. And just to dissipate our ignorance, these Vaishnavas wander on the surface of the globe according to their desire. O great souls, I have heard that among the great and perfect persons wandering the surface of the earth to instruct knowledge to people covered by ignorance are Sanat Kumar, Nārada, Ribu, Aṅgirā, Devala, Asita, Markandeya, Gautam, Vashishta, Bhagwan Parshuram, Kapila, Shukadev, and so on. There's so many personalities wandering the surface of the earth, basically saying, and you must certainly be among them. Great personalities like those listed in these verses wander on the surface of the globe, not to mislead the populace, but to distribute real knowledge. Without this knowledge, human life is wasted. Because it's a darkened world. This world is dark and full of ignorance. This world is dark. If there was no sun, this world will always be night. It only becomes day because the sun appears in the daytime, or the sun appears, then we call it day. When the sun goes, we call it night. So similarly, with knowledge, it's a darkened world. It's only when the saints give us the knowledge that was originally given by Krishna himself that we see the torchlight of that knowledge and our darkness is dissipated. Just simple as that. The human form of life is meant for realization of one's relationship with Krishna. Oh God, one who lacks this knowledge is categorized among the animals. So the animals are always in a darkened state as far as knowledge is concerned. But in our consciousness, because our consciousness is fully formed, it's not completely blossomed, but it's somewhat blossomed. We can take that knowledge and make it fully blossomed. Because you are great personalities, you can give me real knowledge. I am as foolish as a village animal, like a pig or dog. Because this is a king saying, no, he's understood how foolish he has been. I am foolish as a village animal, like a pig or dog, because I am immersed in the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, please ignite the torch of knowledge to save me. So at least once you realize that you don't know anything, then there's the opportunity of learning something. If you think I know everything, no need tell me. I'm very smart, I worked everything out. I have so many years of experience. Who are you to enlighten me? I can enlighten you instead. People argue like that. So this is the way to receive knowledge when put yourself in the humble position. One must submit oneself at the lotus feet of great personalities who can actually deliver transcendental knowledge. That's knowledge above our human perception, our mundane senses. It is therefore said, Tasmad Gurum Prabdayate Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. One who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. Only one who is actually eager to receive knowledge. So you have to be eager. You have to be wanting it. To eradicate the darkness of ignorance is eligible to approach a guru, a spiritual master. The guru should not be approached for material benefits. One should not approach a guru just to cure some disease or receive some miraculous benefit. This is not the way to approach the guru. One should approach the guru to understand the science of spiritual life. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are many bogus gurus who display magic to their disciples, and many foolish disciples want to see such magic for material benefits. These disciples are not interested in pursuing spiritual life to save themselves from the darkness of ignorance. It is said, Om Gyan Trivinasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshu Amilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama. So anyway, let's leave it there, and hope you got something from that, because I think it's fantastic advice and knowledge that Aṅgirā Rishi and Nārada Muni have given to Maharaj Citraketu, and he's he's coming back to life, because he thought his life was over. He's finished, because his son is dead. That was his life and soul. At least that's what he had done. He had given all his hopes, and is committed so much to his son, and that's probably his downfall as well, because his other wives picked up on that, and they did not get any attention from him, so they wanted to get rid of that son who was the obstacle in the relationship between themselves and the king. And they could not stand the fact that just the one wife who had delivered the child was getting so much attention. So we have to be very careful that whatever we have in our lives, family, friends, opulence, how we handle it, how we deal with it, are we really missing the point? What is most important in our lives? I think we've got to understand that. Usually it's friends and family seems to be most important, but they're only temporary. This is the thing. They are just agencies while we are, on this earth. So thank you so much, Padanoji, Hina Mataji, Rukmini Mataji, and Parveen Mataji. Not sure what's happened to Suresha Mataji. I haven't spoken to her, but and welcome to the program. Love to hear from you, Hina Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the class. Hare Krishna, everybody. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, very, very nice instructions are being given in this pastime. So there's some points made about how, as you said, about material relationships being temporary, and that one should not lament over these. And that everything, and that these you could say these material relationships are an illusion, and that the spiritual realization that we're actually a spiritual soul is the real identity. And this is the real knowledge, which if we can properly understand this, then it can help us to accept our temporary material circumstances as well. So whether we have material happiness or misery, we're able to tolerate these better. Because, as you said, we're only in comparison. I was thinking about this. We're only our material life, if you compare it to the lifetime of Brahma's lifetime. We're only here really just for a very, very short time, where it might be a few hours, a few days. Our lifetime is in comparison is very short. So, as I said, we shouldn't take this temporary dream too seriously, or our actions as well, devoid of devotional service, are binding. So, and we'll just continue to pass through different bodies according to our karma in this life. So, human life as you said, was also, is just for the realization, for devotional service. That's the only permanent investment. It's the only permanent reality. It's the only real reality, essentially. So that should be the focus, and that's what Nārada, Aṅgirā, sorry, and Nārada and Aṅgirā is instructing King Citraketu at this point, essentially just making him realize what's important. That was my key points. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Motherji. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this knowledge is useful for us all as well. It's about detachment from temporary things and recognize what is important, not to take these things too seriously. Obviously, we have to be responsible. We have to be responsible with our families, our communities, and our assets. We have to be responsible, but not too serious. They're not be all. They're not the goal of life. They are the means to our goal, and that's what we got to understand. They are just agencies. Everything we have are just agencies to where we want to get to. Thank you so much. Praveen Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad Pranam. Yeah, again, the emphasis on the relationships, how they're temporary, and we have to detach. We have to do our duties, but not to be attached like Lord Krishna told Arjuna. You have to do your duty. So we have to do our duties, fill our responsibilities, whatever responsibilities, and see it as Krishna has chosen us to do this task, and just carry on that. And so attaching ourselves to the Supreme and detaching from these material relations is the key to happiness. And you said, now, we know there are symptoms in Kali Yuga, people are quarrelsome, lazy. And the other thing, we get to hear, even like our children, I know everything. Nobody wants to know, from other person. So that is very wrong. And how Citraketu, he has surrendered to Nārada and Aṅgirā Rishi. So in the same way, we have to surrender to our spiritual master, because they have seen the truth, and that is the true, way to live our life, to realize the truth. And basically not to have any desires and accept whatever happens is the desire of the Lord. And that is like true surrender. When we say we surrender, so we have to accept everything, whatever comes our way is the will of the Lord. And I still struggle, I shouldn't be judging people, but then sometimes you see people, how desperately they want something. And because I always feel we have to leave it to Krishna. He will do it, whatever is best for us, like children doing these grammar school exams. And a couple of years ago, one of the mothers was so stressed and everything. And I said, no, don't worry about it. Whatever is best for your child, Krishna will do. So, so I think we have to adopt this, mentality and accept, and then only we can be happy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, very good point, Mataji. Yeah, actually, first of all, we have to do our duty. As we're doing class on Sunday, we're talking about that all good people, that they do their duty properly so others can learn. And we are all leaders in that respect, whether we are leaders at home, leaders at work, leaders in society. We're all leaders, or leaders in temple. We are all leaders, whether we realize it or not. We are leaders to our children, nothing else. Right? So we're all leaders. We have to set a good example. So for our followers to follow good examples. Very important. And as we get older, everything is behind us. All our big responsibilities. We have seen life. We've had children. We may have grandchildren. So there's so much opportunity now going forward. Well, first of all, you think, well, I've done everything. Why am I still here? What is there left for me more to experience. Well, so it's not just about that, it's that you have a higher purpose. So you experienced everything, done it, and now you have more time to spend on the what you really came here for. What we're really here for. You probably knew that 20 years ago, but you didn't have the time, you didn't have the facility, you didn't have the knowledge. But now you have the time, you have the knowledge, you have the facility, responsibilities are taken care of. So in now focus more. So we know we can't say that I'm too old for this bhakti, do this. No, actually, if you are old, then it's a good time to do bhakti because you don't have this, taking children to school and looking after the welfare, everything. You've done everything. Let children grown up. Everybody's grown up. That you don't have those big responsibilities as you did before. You have different responsibility now. Is to show by example what people should be doing in their old age. So different stages of life just become more and more and more and more detached from material life because you don't have to hold on to everything. You hold on to everything, one day death will pull you away anyway. You hold on tight as you want. When death time comes, it's just going to take you away and everything will be left here for someone else. So why hold on to things that are just temporary? This body is temporary. So how can everything else be permanent, So thank you. Radharani, would like to add something?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, everyone. Good morning. Yes, I was thinking just now that why do we always say Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai all the time? Isn't it we say after Aarti, during class, before the class, after the class? It's thanks to our Acharya, the present Acharya in our lineage, who went through all the pains, who took all the difficulties thrown at his way, whether by his god brothers or the disciples he made, or the situations he created for us, the temples. He took so much pains and he wrote the Shastras and he used to translate each night without fail, so many number of pages. What for? For us, for the likes of us. We are not even related to him. We are not even his children, but we are his grand disciples, some of our disciples, grand disciple, or we are grand disciples. He knew that he had been given the task by Krishna to help the souls of the world. So he took his task so seriously, and all we have to do is just have attentive hearing, attentive minds, attentive conscious, which is present in our situation, in our stage, to just grasp and to just assimilate that. Like we are always eager when we're hungry to have the right nutrition for our body. So we have to be very receptive to the right knowledge given by Srila Prabhupada. All we have to do is just read few pages or just a verse here or there in the day, listen to classes like this, like we have the association as much or as little as we can. The path has been paved so nicely by Krishna. It was all Krishna's arrangement that he sent Srila Prabhupada for us. So like we learned from today's, as we started last week, and every week actually, these pastimes, they tell us from Srimad Bhagavatam that tolerance, we have to cultivate tolerance. We are parts and parcel of Krishna. Our souls are always happy, no matter how much misery there is around us or within our bodies. Our soul somewhere is really happy. It just has to think of God. It just has to think of the good time or the blissful time it had somewhere in the life, and it becomes happy. So we just have to learn to be tolerant, and the activities and the situation and circumstances thrown at us by the divine providence and through our desires and our karma is all leading to teach us to tolerance, whether we like it or we don't. And yes, we have to remember this fact always, all the time, through these pastimes, that everything is impermanent. Like so beautifully explained earlier on, that it's just a chapter. This chapter is going to close when this life comes to an end. But it doesn't mean that the elements which our body is made of is going to finish. No, the elements will go on back to the earth, back to the sky, back to the water. and back to the air. And the soul, which is permanent, which is the superior, is going to travel on, is going to experience more. If we are lucky, we'll get closer to Lord in our next life, or maybe go back to his Leela if we are done with all our karmas and desires. If not, then we'll have to come back and back until and unless we become really, really tolerant and really, really spiritualized to go back into the Leela of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you so much for joining us every week. I feel so blessed that we have got this Sangha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we can do a couple of rounds. Pari Mataji, Hina Mataji, maybe let's do 2 rounds. Pari Mataji, Hare Krishna.